Subscribe to Cheating Tales Lab. Now let's begin. Grant Lambert's hands gripped the steering wheel as he navigated through evening traffic, his daughter Emma's backpack wedged between the passenger seat and center console. The 7-year-old sat in the back seat, unusually quiet, her small fingers clutching the worn teddy bear she'd had since birth. His wife Rochelle sat beside him, her jaw set in that familiar hard line that meant the conversation was over before it began. They'd been arguing about this visit for 3 days. Emma hadn't stayed at her grandmother Catherine McKinney's house in over 6 months, not since last spring when she'd returned home with nightmares that lasted weeks. Grant had put his foot down then, but Rochelle had a way of eroding his defenses through silent treatment and calculated remarks about his overprotectiveness. "She's my mother," Rochelle had said that morning, her tone acid. "Emma needs to learn respect. You're turning her into a weak little thing who can't handle anything." Grant had tried a different approach. "Then let's all go together. Make it a family visit. My mother doesn't want you there." Rochelle's words were surgical, designed to cut. "She wants time with her granddaughter without you hovering." The truth was more complicated. Catherine McKinney had made her disapproval of Grant clear from the moment Rochelle brought him home 8 years ago. He wasn't from money, didn't have the pedigree Catherine had envisioned for her daughter. Grant had built his architectural firm from nothing, worked brutal hours to provide for his family, but to Catherine, he would always be the contractor's son who got lucky. "Daddy." Emma's small voice broke his thoughts. "Do I have to?" Before Grant could answer, Rochelle twisted in her seat. "We've been through this, Emma. Grandma is expecting you." "But she's mean." Emma's voice cracked. "She makes me." "Enough." Rochelle's voice could freeze water. "You're going, and you're going to behave." Grant caught his daughter's eyes in the rearview mirror. They were filling with tears, and something in his chest tightened. "Emma, sweetheart, what does Grandma make you do?" "Grant, don't," Rochelle warned. "I'm asking my daughter a question. You're undermining me." Again, Rochelle's fingers drummed against her thigh, a nervous habit she'd developed in the past year. "My mother follows certain rules. Structure. Discipline. Things Emma needs because you're too soft with her." The McKinney estate loomed ahead, a sprawling colonial on 5 acres in the wealthy suburbs of Westchester County. Catherine had inherited the property from her own mother, along with a trust fund that had defined her entire worldview. Grant had learned early in his marriage that money wasn't just comfort to the McKinneys, it was proof of moral superiority. As they pulled into the circular driveway, Emma's breathing quickened. "Daddy, please. I'll be good. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't leave me here." "Stop being dramatic," Rochelle snapped. But Grant was already turning around, reaching for his daughter's hand. "Emma, listen to me. We're already late." Rochelle unbuckled her seatbelt with sharp, angry movements. "Get out of the car, Emma." "No." Emma's scream was primal, raw with terror. "Daddy, don't leave me here. Please." The sound of Rochelle's palm against Emma's cheek echoed through the car like a gunshot. Grant's entire body went rigid with shock. "Stop speaking," Rochelle commanded, her hand still raised. Time seemed to freeze. Grant stared at his wife, this woman he'd shared his life with, built a home with, and saw a stranger. Emma's sobs filled the silence, small broken sounds that tore at him. "Did you just hit our daughter?" His voice was dangerously quiet. She was hysterical. Rochelle didn't even have the grace to look ashamed. "My mother is right there, watching from the window. What would she think?" Grant looked at the house and saw Catherine McKinney standing behind the curtains of the front window, her thin frame perfectly still, watching. Not rushing out to help, just watching. "We're leaving." Grant started the engine. "We are not." Rochelle grabbed his arm. "If you drive away now, you're telling Emma she can manipulate you with tears and tantrums. You're teaching her weakness. I'm teaching her that she doesn't have to go somewhere she's terrified of going. She's terrified because you've coddled her." Rochelle's eyes flashed. "Do you know what my mother thinks? She thinks you're raising Emma to be useless, soft, unable to handle real life. Your mother is watching our daughter scream in terror and hasn't moved to help. What does that tell you?" Rochelle's jaw tightened. She grabbed her purse and opened the door. "Fine. I'll take her in myself. You go home and feel superior." Before Grant could stop her, Rochelle had opened Emma's door and was pulling their daughter from the car. Emma reached back toward Grant, her face wet with tears, her small hand grasping at air. "Daddy!" Grant jumped out, moving around the car, but Rochelle was already marching Emma toward the house. His daughter's legs barely worked, her body limp with despair as Rochelle dragged her forward. "Rochelle, stop." Grant's voice carried across the driveway. "I mean it. Bring her back to the car." His wife whirled on him. "Go home, Grant. This is between the McKinney women. You've never understood that. You've never understood us." Catherine McKinney opened the front door. She was 63, rail-thin, with iron-gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. Her expression was carved from ice. "Grant." Her voice was clipped, dismissive. "How kind of you to drop Emma off. We'll take excellent care of her." "Mrs. McKinney, Emma doesn't want to stay. Maybe we should. Children rarely want what's good for them." Catherine's thin lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "That's why they need proper guidance. Something I'm providing since my daughter married beneath her." The insult landed, as it was meant to. Grant felt his temper rising, but forced himself to breathe. Getting angry wouldn't help Emma. "I'd like to speak with my daughter," he said evenly. "No." Rochelle's word was final. "You've done enough damage. Go home, Grant. I'll bring Emma back tomorrow afternoon." Emma's cries had faded to whimpers. She stood between her mother and grandmother, small and defeated, her bear hanging from one hand. When she looked at Grant, her eyes held something he'd never seen before, resignation. Like she'd learned that fighting was useless. That look would haunt him for hours. "Emma," he called out. "I love you. I'll see you tomorrow." She didn't respond. Catherine's hand closed on her shoulder, and then they were gone, disappearing into the massive house. The door clicked shut with finality. Rochelle walked back to the car, her heels clicking on the pavement. She slid into the passenger seat without looking at him. "Drive." Grant's hands shook as he started the engine. "If anything happens to her, nothing is going to happen to her. My mother raised me perfectly well." Grant thought about the woman sitting next to him. The way she'd changed over the past 2 years, becoming harder, colder. The way she spoke to Emma now, always finding fault. The criticism that never stopped. The impossible standards. He thought about Rochelle's childhood stories, the ones she used to tell him when they first married. Stories she'd presented as funny anecdotes about her strict upbringing, but that had always made Grant's skin crawl. Being locked in her room for hours for minor infractions. Meals withheld as punishment. The character-building exercises that sounded a lot like abuse. "Did your mother hit you?" The question came out before he could stop it. Rochelle's silence was answer enough. "Rochelle, it made me strong," she said finally. "It made me successful. Look at me, Grant. I run a nonprofit that handles millions in funding. I sit on 3 boards. I'm everything my mother raised me to be." "You're miserable," Grant said quietly. "And now you're making Emma miserable." "I'm making her resilient." But Rochelle's voice wavered slightly. "She'll thank me when she's older." Grant drove them home in silence. Their house in White Plains was a far cry from the McKinney estate, but it was theirs, or had been, before Rochelle started comparing it unfavorably to her childhood home. Before every dinner became a critique session. Before family started meaning something dark and twisted. They arrived home at 4 in the afternoon. Rochelle disappeared into her home office to work on grant applications, her way of avoiding conversation. Grant tried to distract himself with blueprints for a new commercial project, but his mind kept drifting to Emma. He'd built his firm, Lambert Architecture, from scratch. Started as a draftsman for a construction company, took night classes, worked insane hours, and slowly built a reputation for innovative design that balanced aesthetics with structural integrity. He'd won awards, landed major contracts, proved everyone who doubted him wrong. But none of that mattered if he couldn't protect his daughter. His phone sat on the desk, silent. He picked it up, put it down, picked it up again. Rochelle had said they'd bring Emma home tomorrow afternoon. 18 hours. He could last 18 hours. Except he couldn't shake that look in Emma's eyes. That resignation. At 9 o'clock, he texted Rochelle, "Can you call and check on Emma?" The response came 5 minutes later. "She's fine. Stop helicoptering." At 10, he went to bed but didn't sleep. Rochelle came in around midnight, slipping under the covers without a word. Grant lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, listening to his wife's breathing even out into sleep. How had they gotten here? He thought back to their early years, when Rochelle had seemed so different. She'd been ambitious, yes, but also warm. Laughing. She'd loved his passion for architecture, his drive to build something meaningful. They'd been partners. But after Emma was born, something shifted. Rochelle started spending more time with Catherine. Started talking about proper upbringing and high standards. Started finding fault with Grant's parenting. The warmth bled away, replaced by this brittle perfectionism that made their home feel like a museum, beautiful but cold. He must have dozed off sometime after too, because when his phone rang at 9:17 p.m. the next evening, it jolted him from anxious half-sleep. The screen showed an unknown number. "Hello. Is this Grant Lambert?" A woman's voice, professional but concerned. "Yes. Who is this?" "Sir, my name is Nurse Helena O'Neill. I'm calling from White Plains Hospital. Your daughter Emma walked into our ER about 20 minutes ago. Alone." Grant was already moving, pulling on jeans, searching for his shoes. "What? Is she okay? What happened?" "She won't speak to us, sir. But she has something clutched in her hand, and she won't let go. We need parental consent to examine her properly, and sir, I think you should get here right away." "I'm coming. Don't let anyone else near her. No one except hospital staff." "Sir, is there something I should know? Just keep her safe. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He disconnected and grabbed his keys. Rochelle appeared in the doorway, her hair mussed from sleep. "What's wrong?" "Emma's at the hospital." She walked in alone. Rochelle's face went pale. "That's impossible. She's at my mother's." "Then how did she get to White Plains Hospital?" Grant pushed past her. "I'm coming with you." "No." The word came out harder than he intended. "You stay here. Call your mother. Find out what the hell happened." He didn't wait for a response. He took the stairs two at a time, burst out the front door, and threw himself into his car. The engine roared to life, and he pulled onto the street faster than he should have. The route to the hospital was burned into his brain. He'd driven it when Emma was born, during her bout with pneumonia at age 4, for routine checkups. But he'd never driven it like this, weaving through traffic, pushing 90 on the highway, his heart hammering against his ribs. How had Emma gotten out? Catherine's estate was miles from any main road. How had a 7-year-old found her way to a hospital in a different town? And what wasn't she saying? His phone rang. "Rochelle, my mother isn't answering." Her voice shook. "Grant, what if something? What if something what? What if your mother did exactly what I was afraid she'd do?" He heard the anger in his own voice and didn't care. "I told you Emma didn't want to stay there." She was screaming, Rochelle. Screaming. "Don't you dare blame me for this." "Then who do I blame? You're the one who slapped her. You're the one who forced her inside." Silence. Then, quietly, "If you're suggesting my mother would hurt Emma, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm going to find out what happened." He ended the call and threw the phone onto the passenger seat. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty at this hour. Grant abandoned his car in a spot marked for ambulances and sprinted toward the ER entrance. The automatic doors seemed to take forever to open. Inside, the reception area was bright and sterile. A security guard looked up, but Grant was already at the desk. "Emma Lambert. My daughter. Where is she?" The receptionist checked her computer. "Room 7. I'll take you." Grant was already moving, following the signs, his footsteps echoing on the linoleum. He passed examination rooms, a waiting area, a nurse's station. Then he saw her. Emma sat on a hospital bed, her legs dangling over the edge, her pink dress dirty and torn at the hem. Her hair was tangled, her face streaked with dried tears. But when she saw Grant, her entire face transformed. "Daddy." She launched herself off the bed and into his arms. Grant caught her, pulling her close, feeling her small body shake with sobs. He dropped to his knees so they were at eye level, his hands running over her, checking for injuries. That's when he saw her arm. His entire world narrowed to a single point, the inside of Emma's left forearm, from wrist to elbow. Burns. Circular burns, evenly spaced, deliberate. The pattern was unmistakable. Someone had held her down and pressed something hot against her skin. Multiple times. Grant's vision went red at the edges. His hands trembled as he gently touched the area around the marks, and Emma flinched. "Who did this?" His voice didn't sound like his own. "Emma, sweetheart, who hurt you?" Emma's free hand opened, and something fell into Grant's palm. A small voice recorder, the kind people used for dictation. The old-fashioned kind with mini cassette tapes. It was still running, the tiny wheels turning slowly. Grant looked at his daughter's face. She was trying to tell him something, her eyes urgent despite her silence. "Did you record something, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Emma nodded. A nurse approached, Helena O'Neill, based on her name tag. She was in her 40s, with kind eyes that had seen too much. "Mr. Lambert?" We need to examine her injuries properly. And sir, those burns are severe. This is going to require a police report. Grant pulled out his phone with shaking hands. His finger hovered over Rochelle's number, then moved to 911 instead. This is Grant Lambert. I'm at White Plains Hospital with my 7-year-old daughter. She has what appear to be burn marks from intentional abuse. I need police here immediately. As he gave the details to the dispatcher, he kept his other arm around Emma, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. In his palm, the voice recorder continued spinning its tale of whatever horror she'd endured. He thought about Rochelle's words. My mother raised me perfectly well. He thought about Emma's screams in the driveway. He thought about Catherine McKinney's cold eyes watching from the window. And he made a promise, silent but absolute. Whatever had happened in that house, whoever was responsible, they would pay for every mark on his daughter's skin. The police arrived within 15 minutes. Officer Lowell Hines was a veteran with gray at his temples and the careful manner of someone who'd worked too many child abuse cases. His partner, Officer Kara Hines, his daughter, Grant learned later, looked fresh out of the academy but had sharp, observant eyes. They set up in a private consultation room while hospital staff tended to Emma's burns. Grant had wanted to stay with her, but Emma had whispered her first words since arriving. Play the tape, Daddy. Make them hear. Now Grant sat across from the officers, the voice recorder on the table between them. His hands were still shaking. Before we listen to this, Officer Lowell Hines said, I need you to walk me through what happened. From the beginning. Grant told them everything. The argument about the visit. Emma's terror. Rochelle's slap. Catherine McKinney's cold welcome. The 18 hours of worry. The call from the hospital. And you have no idea how your daughter got from Westchester County to this hospital? Kara Hines asked. None. It's at least 15 miles. She's 7 years old. That's a long way for a small child. Lowell Hines made notes. Especially in the dark. We'll need to reconstruct her route. But first, he gestured to the recorder. Let's hear what she wanted us to hear. Grant pressed play. Static crackled. Then Emma's voice, small and scared. Daddy said I should always tell the truth. So I'm recording the truth. More static. Sounds of movement, fabric rustling. Then Emma again, quieter now. Grandma says I have to learn discipline. She says Mommy was bad when she was little, and she fixed her. Now she has to fix me. Grant's jaw clenched. On the tape, a door opened. Catherine McKinney's voice, crisp and cold. Stand up straight, Emma. Slouching is a sign of weak character. Yes, Grandma. Your mother tells me you've been disobedient at home. Talking back. Refusing to follow simple instructions. I didn't mean to. Silence. When I'm speaking, you listen. This is the first rule. Do you understand? A pause. Then Emma, barely audible. Yes, Grandma. Today you will learn what happens when McKinney women forget their place. Your mother learned these lessons. Now it's your turn. The recording captured sounds that made Grant's blood run cold. Footsteps. A drawer opening. Catherine's voice, matter of fact. Hold out your arm. No. Please, I'll be good. Discipline requires discomfort. Pain teaches what words cannot. Hold out your arm, or I'll get the rope. Grandma, please. The sound of a struggle. Emma crying. Then a sizzle, like meat hitting a hot pan, followed by a scream that ripped through Grant's chest. Stop moving, Catherine commanded. Each time you move, we add another mark. Do you understand? Sobbing. Yes, yes, Grandma. Another sizzle. Another scream. That's 2. Do you know why you're being disciplined, Emma? Because I'm bad. Because you need to learn respect. Because your father has made you soft. Because the McKinney women understand that strength comes through suffering. 5 more times. 5 more sizzles. 5 more screams. Grant's fingernails dug into his palms so hard he drew blood. Officer Kara Hines had gone pale. Her father's expression was carved from stone. Then Catherine's voice again. Go to your room. You'll sleep here tonight. No dinner. Tomorrow morning, we'll discuss your other infractions. The recording captured Emma's footsteps, her soft crying, a door closing. Several minutes of silence. Then rustling, Emma must have pulled out the recorder. Daddy, she whispered into the device. Grandma used the thing from the fireplace. The metal stick for moving logs. She heated it in the fire, and then she put it on my arm. 7 times, because I'm 7 years old. She said that's how Mommy learned when she was 7 too. A long pause. When Emma spoke again, her voice was different. Older somehow, harder. I waited until she was asleep. The window in my room doesn't lock good. I climbed down the tree like you showed me at our house. I walked to the road and followed it. A nice lady in a car stopped and asked if I was okay. I told her I needed a hospital. She wanted to call the police, but I said no, just hospital. I had to get to you, Daddy. I had to show you what Grandma did. Because Mommy said you wouldn't believe me if I just told you. She said you always think we're lying. The recording ended with a click. The silence in the consultation room was absolute. Grant couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All he could see was his 7-year-old daughter, in pain and terrified, climbing out a window in the dark and walking 15 miles because she believed her own mother wouldn't protect her. Mr. Lambert? Officer Lowell Hines's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you all right? Grant looked up. That's my wife's mother, Catherine McKinney. She lives at 847 Briarcliff Lane in Westchester County. Kara Hines was already on her radio, calling for backup, requesting a warrant, alerting Westchester PD. Her father leaned forward. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did you know about this? Did you suspect? I suspected something was wrong at that house. Emma always came back different after visits, quiet, anxious. But I never imagined. Grant's voice broke. How could I have known it was this bad? Your wife, Lowell Hines said carefully. On the recording, your daughter said her mother told her you wouldn't believe her. Does that concern you? Grant thought about Rochelle's insistence that Emma stay at Catherine's house. Her anger when he questioned it. Her slap in the car. The way she defended her mother's discipline. Yes, he said finally. It concerns me very much. We're going to need to speak with your wife. She's at home, probably trying to reach her mother right now. Officer Kara Hines stepped away from her radio. Westchester PD is en route to the McKinney residence. They'll take Mrs. McKinney into custody. We'll need to interview your wife as well, and she hesitated. Mr. Lambert, given what we've heard on that recording, there's a possibility your wife could face charges as well. Conspiracy, child endangerment, failure to protect. Grant felt something cold settle in his chest. His wife, his partner, the mother of his child. Do whatever you need to do, he said. I want everyone responsible for this to face consequences. The officers exchanged glances. Lowell Hines nodded slowly. We'll need to take the recorder as evidence. And we'll need a formal statement from you and from Emma when she's ready. Whatever you need. But I need to see my daughter. Of course. One more thing. Lowell pulled out a card. This is the number for Child Protective Services. They'll likely open an investigation. Standard procedure in cases like this. They'll want to ensure Emma is safe going forward. She'll be with me. No one else. That may not be your decision to make, Mr. Lambert. If CPS determines that both parents were negligent. I was negligent, Grant interrupted. I knew something was wrong, and I let my wife pressure me anyway. I should have trusted my instincts. I should have protected Emma better. He stood. But that ends now. From this moment forward, my daughter's safety is the only thing that matters. He found Emma in an examination room, her arm bandaged, a child life specialist sitting beside her with a coloring book. When Emma saw Grant, she slid off the table and wrapped her arms around his waist. Did you listen to it? She asked. I did, sweetheart. You were so brave to record that. So brave to walk all that way to get help. The lady who gave me a ride was nice. Her name was Leanne. She has a daughter too. Grant made a mental note to find this Leanne and thank her. Emma, the police are going to talk to you. They're going to ask you questions about what happened at Grandma's house. Can you be brave and answer them? Emma looked up at him, her eyes ancient in her small face. Is Grandma going to jail? I hope so, baby. I really hope so. Good. Emma's voice was hard. She hurt Mommy too when Mommy was little. Mommy told me. She said it made her strong, but Daddy, I don't feel strong. I just feel scared. Grant knelt down, eye to eye with his daughter. Being scared doesn't mean you're not strong. You climbed out a window. You walked 15 miles in the dark. You recorded evidence that's going to help put a stop to this. Emma, you're the strongest person I know. A tear rolled down Emma's cheek. Is Mommy mad at me? The question gutted him. No, sweetheart. No one is mad at you. But even as he said it, he wondered if it was true. Rochelle had been trying to reach him. 7 missed calls, 12 texts. He hadn't looked at any of them. Didn't want to. Because he knew what they would say. Deflection. Excuses. Blame. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. Rochelle. Grant, answer me. My mother is saying the police are at her house. What did you do? Rochelle, this is insane. Emma is fine. She's always been dramatic. Rochelle, you're overreacting. This is going to destroy our family. Rochelle, call me right now. Grant turned off his phone. Over the next few hours, the pieces fell into place with grim efficiency. Westchester PD arrested Catherine McKinney at her estate. She'd tried to deny everything until they showed her the recording, at which point she'd switched tactics, claiming she was within her rights to discipline her granddaughter, that this was how proper families operated, that Grant was a lower-class interloper trying to destroy a respectable family. None of it worked. The burns on Emma's arm told their own story. The voice recording was damning. And when police searched Catherine's house, they found the fireplace poker, still bearing traces of burnt skin on its tip. Rochelle arrived at the hospital at midnight, her face pale, her movements jerky. She tried to enter Emma's room, but Grant blocked the doorway. You're not seeing her. She's my daughter. Rochelle's voice cracked. Grant, please. I need to explain. Explain what? How you knew your mother was abusive and you sent Emma there anyway. How you slapped our daughter when she begged not to go. How you told her I wouldn't believe her if she reported abuse. I never said that. Emma recorded it, Rochelle. Your mother said it on the tape. Your mother says you won't believe her. Rochelle's composure crumbled. My mother is lying. She's trying to. Your mother is in custody. She's going to be charged with aggravated child abuse. And you? Grant stepped closer. You're going to answer some questions from the police about what you knew and when you knew it. I didn't know she would actually hurt Emma. I thought she might be strict, make her follow rules, but not. Rochelle pressed her hands to her face. My mother never went that far with me. Didn't she? You said she made you strong. You defended her methods. You called Emma weak for being afraid. Grant's voice was low, controlled, but fury burned beneath every word. Did your mother burn you too, Rochelle? Is that one of the lessons you learned? The flicker in Rochelle's eyes was answer enough. Oh my God. Grant felt sick. She did. And you were going to let her do it to Emma. I survived. I'm successful. You're damaged. Grant said it without cruelty, just fact. Your mother broke something in you, and instead of getting help, you were going to let her break our daughter too. Rochelle reached for him, but he stepped back. Grant, please. I love Emma. I love you. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. No. The word was final. You made a choice. You chose your mother over our daughter. You chose old pain over Emma's safety. There's no fixing that. You can't keep her from me. I'm her mother. Actually, I can. Child Protective Services is involved now. The police are involved. And I'm filing for emergency custody and divorce first thing Monday morning. He'd made the decision somewhere between hearing Emma's screams on the recording and seeing Rochelle's texts. You'll have supervised visitation at best. And only if Emma wants to see you. You can't do this. Officer Kara Hines appeared at the end of the hallway. Mrs. Lambert? We need to ask you some questions. Rochelle looked from the officer to Grant, panic blooming in her eyes. Grant, don't let them. Answer their questions honestly. It's the least you can do. He turned his back on her and returned to Emma's room, closing the door on his wife's protests. Emma was asleep, curled on her side, her bandaged arm resting on a pillow. The child life specialist had gone, leaving Grant alone with his daughter. He pulled a chair close to the bed and watched her breathe, his mind racing through everything that needed to happen next. Tomorrow, he'd called Dane Shannon, the best family law attorney in the state. They'd gone to college together, stayed friends despite their different paths. Dane would know how to protect Emma legally. He'd also need to call his business partner, Winston Cabrera. Winston could handle the firm for a few days while Grant dealt with this nightmare. Between them, they'd built Lambert and Cabrera Architecture into one of the most respected firms in the tri-state area. Winston would understand. He had 3 daughters of his own. Healing. But this is going to be a long process. Take whatever time you need. The firm will be here when you're ready. Winston paused. And Grant, if you need anything else, anything at all, you let me know. Actually, there is something. You sit on the board at Westchester Community Foundation, right? I do. Rochelle's nonprofit, the McKinney Family Fund, gets funding from the foundation. About $2 million a year. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, what are you thinking? I'm thinking the foundation should know that its grant money is going to an organization run by someone currently under investigation for child endangerment. I'm thinking donors might have concerns. Grant, I'm not asking you to do anything unethical. Just make sure the right people are informed. Another pause. I'll make some calls. Discreetly. The second call was to Johnny Phillips, an investigative journalist who'd written a series on child abuse in wealthy families. Grant had met him at a fundraiser 2 years ago. Johnny had been covering architectural preservation, of all things, and they'd bonded over a shared love of Frank Lloyd Wright. Grant Lambert? Man, I heard about your daughter. I'm so sorry. Thanks. Listen, I have a story for you. Generational abuse in one of Westchester's most prominent families. Recorded evidence. Criminal charges. The whole thing. You want this public? I want the truth out there. I want everyone who ever admired Catherine McKinney to know exactly who she is. Send me everything you can. I'll start working on it today. Johnny's voice sharpened with professional interest. This could be significant, Grant. The McKinney name carries weight. If we can show a pattern of abuse across generations, do it. Whatever it takes. The third call was harder. Grant dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Doug Birch, Rochelle's brother. Doug was 2 years older than Rochelle, lived in Seattle, and rarely came home. He'd left the McKinney orbit years ago, worked in tech, married a software engineer named Leanne. Coincidentally, the same woman who'd picked up Emma and driven her to the hospital, Grant had learned. Doug had always been quiet at family gatherings, watchful in a way that suggested he saw more than he said. Grant, I heard about Emma. Leanne told me she picked up a little girl who turned out to be my niece. Is she okay? And he'd need to find a therapist for Emma. Someone who specialized in trauma. Someone who could help his daughter process what had happened and rebuild the sense of safety that Catherine and Rochelle had shattered. His phone buzzed. He'd turned it back on to make necessary calls. Another text from Rochelle, but this time different. Rochelle, I told the police everything. About my childhood. About what my mother did to me. About how I thought it was normal. I'm so sorry, Grant. I'm so sorry. Grant stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. Sorry wasn't enough. Sorry didn't erase the burns on Emma's arm or the terror in her eyes or the 15 miles she'd walked alone in the dark because her own mother had failed her. His daughter stirred, her eyes opening. Daddy, I'm here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Promise. Emma's eyes drifted closed again, but her hand found his and held on tight. Grant sat in the dim hospital room, holding his daughter's hand, and began planning exactly how he would dismantle the McKinney family piece by piece. Because this wasn't over. The police had Catherine. They were investigating Rochelle. But Grant had spent years building things. Buildings, businesses, systems. He understood structure. He understood how to find weak points and apply pressure until everything collapsed. And he was going to use every skill he had to ensure that Catherine McKinney and anyone who enabled her spent the rest of their lives paying for what they'd done to his daughter. The McKinneys thought money and social standing made them untouchable. Grant Lambert was about to teach them differently. Monday morning arrived with cruel sunshine. Grant had spent the weekend at Emma's side as she was released from the hospital, as CPS conducted their initial interview, as his world reshaped itself around this new reality. Emma was physically healing. The burns would scar, but they'd fade. The emotional damage would take longer. Dane Shannon arrived at Grant's house at 9 sharp, carrying a leather briefcase and the kind of focused energy that made him legendary in family court. He was 42, prematurely gray, with the build of someone who worked out his stress through kickboxing. He'd once told Grant that family law was where you went if you wanted to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Show me everything, Dane said, declining coffee, settling at Grant's dining room table. Grant laid out the voice recording, the police reports, photos of Emma's injuries, medical documentation, and his own timeline of events. Dane listened without interrupting, his pen moving across a legal pad in sharp, efficient strokes. When Grant finished, Dane sat back. Okay, here's where we are. Criminal charges against Catherine McKinney are solid: aggravated child abuse, assault on a minor, false imprisonment. She's looking at 15 to 25 years if convicted. She's already retained Conrad Bray as her attorney. Bray. Grant recognized the name. He's expensive. He's also ruthless and very good at getting wealthy clients reduced sentences. But this case. Dane tapped the police report. This is bad even for him. The voice recording is devastating. The physical evidence is clear. Unless Bray can somehow get the recording thrown out, which I doubt, Catherine is going to prison. Good. As for Rochelle, Dane hesitated. She's cooperating with police. She's given a full statement about her own abuse as a child and admitted she suspected her mother might use similar methods with Emma. That's not quite conspiracy, but it's child endangerment at minimum. The DA is deciding whether to charge her. Grant's jaw tightened. She knew. Maybe not the specifics, but she knew Emma would be hurt. Legally, that's a gray area. Ethically, Dane shrugged. She failed as a mother. But Grant, here's what I need you to understand. If the DA charges Rochelle, it actually makes your custody case easier. If they don't, we'll have to fight harder. I want full custody. No unsupervised visits for Rochelle. Nothing for Catherine ever. That's the goal. Emergency custody is already in place. CPS granted that pending investigation. But for permanent custody, we need to build a case that demonstrates Rochelle is either unable or unwilling to protect Emma. Dane flipped through his notes. The voice recording helps. Emma saying, "Mommy told me you wouldn't believe me." That shows parental alienation and failure to protect. Rochelle's cooperation with police actually works in her favor, though. She's showing remorse, seeking help. She's showing regret that she got caught. Maybe. But family court judges like redemption arcs. They want to believe parents can change. Dane leaned forward. Here's my advice. Don't underestimate Rochelle's attorney. She'll hire someone good, and they'll paint her as a victim of her own abusive childhood who made a terrible mistake. They'll push for therapy, supervised visits, reunification. Over my dead body. That's the fight we're in. But Grant, I need you to stay clean. No confrontations with Rochelle or Catherine. No actions that could be construed as vindictive. Document everything, but don't engage. Let me handle the legal warfare. Grant nodded, but his mind was already working. Dane was right about the legal approach. But Grant had other tools at his disposal. Catherine McKinney had built her life on reputation and social standing. So had Rochelle, to a lesser extent. What if those things were systematically destroyed? After Dane left, Grant made a series of calls. First to Winston Cabrera. "I need a few weeks," Grant said. "Maybe a month. Can you hold down the firm?" "Of course. How's Emma?" Winston had visited the hospital Saturday with his wife Margarita and their youngest daughter, bringing books and a stuffed elephant that Emma now slept with. "She will be." "Doug, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did your mother abuse you too?" A long silence. Then, "Yes. Would you be willing to testify to that? In court, if necessary? Against my mother? And possibly Rochelle." She knew what Catherine was capable of, and she let Emma go there anyway. Jesus. Doug's breath came out shaky. Rochelle always defended Mom. Said the discipline made us strong. I tried to talk to her about it years ago, tried to get her to see a therapist, but she shut me down. Told me I was being weak. She said the same thing to Emma. "I'll testify," Doug said. "I'll do whatever you need. I should have done something sooner. I should have warned you about Mom before you married Rochelle. You couldn't have known how far it would go. Actually, I could have, because it happened to me. She used a belt on me, made me kneel on rice for hours, locked me in the basement overnight when I was 9 because I got a B on a math test." Doug's voice hardened. "I cut contact when I turned 22 and never looked back. I thought Rochelle would protect Emma. I thought she'd break the cycle. She didn't. No, she didn't. And that's on her. Grant, whatever you're planning, legal, personal, whatever, I'm in. My mother needs to pay. And if Rochelle helped her, even passively, she needs to face that too." After hanging up, Grant sat in his home office, looking at his list of contacts. Catherine McKinney served on the boards of 3 major charities. She was a member of the Westchester Country Club, the Garden Society, the Historical Preservation Committee. She had friends in the Chamber of Commerce, the Arts Council, the Symphony Board. And Grant knew people on every single one of those boards. He began making calls. Carefully. Subtly. Just asking questions. "Have you heard about the charges against Catherine McKinney?" "No." "Oh, I thought surely someone would have mentioned it." "Yes, child abuse. Her granddaughter. Quite serious, from what I understand. I only mention it because I know she's involved with your organization, and I thought you might want to be aware." By Tuesday afternoon, Catherine had been asked to step down from 2 boards, pending resolution of her legal issues. By Wednesday, the country club had suspended her membership. By Thursday, Johnny Phillips's article hit the front page of the Westchester Gazette. Prominent socialite charged in child abuse case voice recording reveals deliberate torture of 7-year-old granddaughter. The article was devastating in its detail. Johnny had obtained copies of the police report, had interviewed neighbors who'd always thought Catherine was strict but respectable, and had found Doug Birch, who went on record about his own childhood abuse. The article didn't name Emma. She was protected as a minor, but it named Catherine, outlined the charges, and included a quote from the DA. "This is one of the most disturbing cases of child abuse we've prosecuted in recent memory." Grant's phone exploded with calls. Friends expressing support, former colleagues offering help, and, perhaps most gratifyingly, calls from other McKinney family acquaintances, distant cousins, old friends, saying they'd always known something was wrong with Catherine, but hadn't known how to speak up. Rochelle called too. Grant let it go to voicemail. "Grant, please. I know you're angry, but this article, it's destroying my career. The foundation is pulling our funding. 3 board members resigned. My reputation is," her voice broke. "I know I failed Emma. I know I failed you. But I'm getting help. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm trying to understand what my mother did to me and why I thought it was normal. Please, just talk to me. Please." Grant deleted the message. Emma was in the living room, working on a puzzle with a trauma counselor named Dr. Melba Huang. Dr. Huang specialized in childhood trauma and came highly recommended. She'd been working with Emma for 3 days now, gentle and patient, helping Emma process what had happened. Grant watched them through the doorway. Emma was talking more, smiling occasionally. She still flinched at sudden movements and woke up crying most nights, but she was healing. Slowly. "Daddy," Emma called out. "Can you help us find the corner pieces?" Grant joined them on the floor, searching through puzzle pieces, listening to Dr. Huang guide Emma through breathing exercises, and felt something settle in his chest. This was what mattered. Not revenge, though that was satisfying. Not Catherine's legal troubles, though those were deserved. What mattered was Emma feeling safe enough to do a puzzle. Sleeping through the night. Trusting that the adults in her life would protect her. "I found one." Emma held up a corner piece triumphantly. "Good job, sweetheart. 3 more to go." Emma sorted through the pile with careful concentration. "Dr. Huang says when we finish the whole puzzle, we can start a bigger one. One with a castle." "That sounds perfect." That night, after Emma was asleep and Dr. Huang had left, Grant sat at his computer and began drafting an email to every person he knew in the architectural community. He explained what had happened, in broad strokes, protecting Emma's privacy, and mentioned Rochelle's role in it. He didn't have to spell it out. The implication was clear. The McKinney Family Fund, which had been involved in funding several community development projects, was run by someone who'd failed to protect her own daughter. He didn't send it. Not yet. That was nuclear, and he wanted to hold it in reserve. Instead, he opened a different file, a timeline of Catherine's activities over the past 5 years. Grant had always paid attention at family gatherings, listening when Catherine bragged about her charitable work, her investments, her social connections. He'd thought he was just making conversation. Now that information was useful. Catherine had mentioned a real estate investment trust that she managed for several family members. Grant didn't know the details, but he knew who might. Nicholas Manning, a forensic accountant who'd helped Grant with a complicated commercial development deal 3 years ago. "Nicholas, I need a favor. I need to know if there's anything irregular about a trust fund managed by Catherine McKinney, the woman who was just charged with child abuse." "The same. Why do you think there's something irregular?" "Because people who are cruel in their private lives are often dishonest in their professional lives. And because Catherine McKinney has spent 40 years believing she's above the rules." Nicholas was quiet for a moment. "I need access to financial records. That means subpoenas, legal authority. What if I could get you authorization from one of the trust beneficiaries? Then I could review their portion of the holdings." "But Grant, what are you looking for?" "Anything that would cause legal problems for Catherine. Mismanagement. Self-dealing. Fraud. I want every aspect of her life examined and exposed. This is pretty aggressive. She burned my daughter's arm 7 times with a heated poker. Aggressive doesn't begin to cover what I'm planning." "Fair enough. Get me authorization and I'll see what I can find." Grant's next call was to Doug Birch again. "Are you a beneficiary of any trust managed by your mother?" "Yeah, my grandfather's estate. Mom has been the trustee since he died." "What?" "I want to audit the trust. I think your mother might be stealing from it." "You think or you know?" "I think. But I want to find out." Doug didn't hesitate. "Do it. If she's been stealing from the family trust on top of everything else, I want her buried." By the end of the week, Nicholas Manning had his authorization and was deep into Catherine McKinney's financial records. The preliminary report came back on Saturday. Grant, you were right. She's been siphoning money from the trust for years. Conservative estimate, $800,000 over the past decade. Used it for personal expenses, property renovations, country club fees. Classic trust fund abuse. This is criminal. I'm documenting everything. N. Grant forwarded the report to the DA's office with a brief note. Additional evidence in the McKinney case may be relevant to establishing pattern of behavior. Sunday morning, Rochelle appeared at his door. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants instead of her typical designer clothes. I know you don't want to see me, she said, but I need to talk to you about Emma. Supervised visits were denied. The judge ruled it's not in Emma's best interest right now. I know. I was there. Rochelle's voice cracked. Grant, she's my daughter. I made a horrible mistake, but I love her. You have a funny way of showing it. I thought I was doing the right thing. My mother made me believe that strict discipline was love. That pain was how you showed you cared enough to make your children strong. I know that's insane now. I know that's abuse. But it's what I was taught. And instead of questioning it, instead of getting therapy, instead of breaking the cycle, you passed it on to Emma. I didn't know I needed therapy. I thought I was fine. I thought I was successful and functional, and Rochelle pressed her hands to her face. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And I'm in therapy now, 3 times a week, trying to understand what my mother did to me and why I couldn't see it. That's great, Rochelle. Truly. But it doesn't change what you did. I know. I know I failed her. I know I failed you. But I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to be better. Grant studied his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife. She looked broken in a way that might have moved him once. But all he could see was Emma's arm, covered in burns. All he could hear was Emma's voice on that recording. Mommy said you wouldn't believe me. I hope therapy helps you, he said. I genuinely do. But Emma is my priority now. Not you. Not your healing. Emma's. Can I write her a letter? Can I tell her I'm sorry? Dr. Huang says no contact right now. Emma needs time to process before she deals with you. I'm her mother. Yes. And that's why this hurts her so much. Because mothers are supposed to protect their children, and you didn't. Grant stepped back, ready to close the door. Goodbye, Rochelle. Grant, wait. Please. There has to be something I can do. Some way to prove I'm trying to change. Grant paused. An idea was forming, dark and calculated. Actually, there is something. You could testify against your mother. Make it clear that she abused you too, that this is a pattern, that Emma wasn't an isolated incident. Testify? In her criminal trial? Yes. Rochelle went pale. She's my mother. She burned your daughter. She burned you. She's a predator, and she deserves to spend the rest of her life in prison. Grant leaned against the doorframe. If you want to prove you're choosing Emma over your mother, that's how you do it. You take the stand, you tell the truth about what she did to you, and you help ensure she never hurts another child. I can't. Then you haven't changed at all. It's not that simple. She's still my mother. I still have feelings. Complicated feelings. Emma has feelings too. Complicated feelings about you. The difference is, Emma is a child who deserves protection. Your mother is an adult who made choices. Grant shook his head. Let me know if you change your mind. Otherwise, I have nothing more to say to you. He closed the door, leaving Rochelle on the porch. Through the window, he watched her stand there for several minutes before finally walking back to her car. Inside, Emma was awake, sitting at the top of the stairs. Was that Mommy? Yes, sweetheart. I heard you talking. You want her to tell the truth about Grandma. Grant climbed the stairs and sat beside his daughter. I do. But only if she's ready. And only if you're okay with it. Emma was quiet, thinking. Then, Dr. Huang says Mommy was hurt too when she was little. That sometimes people who are hurt other people because they don't know better. That's true. But she's a grown-up. She should have known better than Grandma. Yes, she should have. I don't want to see her yet. Maybe later. But not yet. Emma leaned against Grant's shoulder. Is that bad? To not want to see my mom? No, sweetheart. It's honest. And right now, being honest about your feelings is the most important thing. They sat together on the stairs, and Grant felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. He was Emma's protector now, her advocate, the only parent she could trust, and he would do whatever it took to keep her safe, even if it meant destroying everyone who'd failed her. The preliminary hearing for Catherine McKinney's criminal case was held on a gray Tuesday morning in mid-November. Grant sat in the courtroom gallery, watching as Catherine entered in an orange jumpsuit, her iron gray hair still perfect despite 2 weeks in county jail. She'd been denied bail, flight risk, given her financial resources. Conrad Bray, her attorney, was making his arguments about illegal recording and invasion of privacy. Emma had been 7 years old, he argued. A child that young couldn't consent to recording someone. The tape should be inadmissible. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Augusta Velasquez, countered smoothly. The recording was made in a private residence where the child had a reasonable expectation of privacy in her own room. She was documenting abuse happening to her. New York's one-party consent law applies. Emma was party to the conversation, even if Mrs. McKinney was unaware of the recording. More importantly, the recording corroborates physical evidence. Even without the tape, we have a child with deliberate burn marks and medical testimony confirming intentional abuse. The judge, a stern man in his 60s named Herman Rios, reviewed the arguments. The recording is admitted. This court finds that a child's right to document ongoing abuse outweighs the alleged privacy concerns. Additionally, the physical evidence stands independently. Motion to suppress denied. Conrad Bray's expression didn't change, but Grant saw the tension in his shoulders. Without getting that recording thrown out, Catherine's defense was in serious trouble. The hearing continued with witness testimony. The nurse who'd first treated Emma, the police officer who'd taken Catherine into custody, Nicholas Manning with his financial analysis showing trust fund theft. By the end of the day, Catherine was facing additional charges: grand larceny, fiduciary theft, tax evasion. Grant watched it all with grim satisfaction. Catherine sat stone-faced through the proceedings, but he caught the moment her mask slipped, when the prosecutor played a portion of the recording for the court, and Emma's screams echoed through the room. Catherine flinched, just slightly, not with remorse, with annoyance, like a carpenter upset about a misplaced nail. She was a monster, and Grant was going to make sure everyone knew it. After the hearing, Johnny Phillips caught up with him in the hallway. "Grant, I've been following the case. Can I get a statement from you?" "About what?" "About the additional charges. About what it's like watching your daughter's abuser face justice." Grant considered. He'd stayed mostly quiet in the press, letting the facts speak for themselves. But maybe it was time to speak up. "My daughter survived something that should never happen to any child," he said carefully. "She survived it because she's brave and resourceful and stronger than any 7-year-old should have to be. I'm watching the legal system work exactly as it should, holding an abuser accountable. I hope it gives other survivors the courage to come forward." "What about your wife?" "There are rumors she might be charged as well. I can't comment on ongoing investigations. But I will say this: anyone who knew abuse was possible and did nothing to prevent it bears responsibility. That includes family members who enable abusers." Johnny scribbled notes. "Some people are saying you're being vindictive, that you're trying to destroy the McKinney family. I'm protecting my daughter. If that destroys the McKinney reputation, so be it. Their reputation was built on a lie anyway." The article ran the next day, sympathetic to Grant, damning to the McKinneys. The comments section filled with similar stories. People who'd grown up in wealthy families where abuse was hidden behind closed doors, who'd never spoken up because they were taught that privacy mattered more than safety. Grant's phone rang constantly. Support from friends, interview requests from national media outlets, and one call from Dane Shannon. The DA is charging Rochelle. Child endangerment, conspiracy to commit assault. She's looking at 2 to 7 years if convicted. Grant felt nothing. No satisfaction. No regret. Just a cold certainty that this was necessary. What are her chances? Decent, actually. She's cooperating fully. She's in therapy. She's showing genuine remorse. The DA might offer a plea, reduce charges in exchange for testimony against Catherine. Will she take it? If she's smart, yes. But Grant. Dane paused. This changes the custody situation. If Rochelle is convicted of a felony, you get full custody by default. No fight. No court battle. Emma is yours. Good. Is it though? Because Emma might want to see her mother eventually. And if Rochelle is in prison, then Emma will deal with that in therapy. Rochelle made her choices. She has to live with the consequences. Grant hung up and checked on Emma, who was in her room reading with Dr. Huang. They'd progressed from puzzles to books to actual conversations about what happened. Emma was doing better, but the scars, physical and emotional, would always be there. That night, Grant made one final call. To Catherine McKinney's personal assistant, a woman named Carol Lowry who'd worked for the family for 20 years. Ms. Lowry, this is Grant Lambert. I know this is unusual, but I wanted to ask you something. Off the record. Mr. Lambert, I'm not sure I should. Did you know? About what Catherine did to children. A long silence. Then, quietly, I suspected. Did you ever try to stop it? Once. When Doug was 12. I found him locked in the basement, and I asked Mrs. McKinney about it. She told me it was none of my business. She said if I spoke about it to anyone, she'd ruin my career. I have 3 children of my own, Mr. Lambert. I needed the job. I understand. Do you? Because I've lived with that guilt for 20 years. I could have called the police. I could have done something. But I was afraid, and I needed the money, and I told myself it wasn't my place. You could do something now, Grant said. You could testify. You could tell the court what you saw. I already am. The DA contacted me last week. I'm scheduled to testify at the trial. Her voice broke. I can't bring back the years Doug and Rochelle suffered. I can't undo Emma's burns. But I can make sure everyone knows the truth about Catherine McKinney. After the call ended, Grant sat in the darkness of his office, thinking about all the people who'd known and said nothing. How many chances had there been to stop this? How many people had chosen comfort over conscience? He thought about Rochelle, raised in that house, taught that pain was love. He thought about Doug, escaping across the country and never looking back. He thought about Emma, who'd only survived because she'd been brave enough to record her own abuse and walk 15 miles for help. The system had failed all of them, but it was working now. Slowly, imperfectly, but working. Grant pulled out his laptop and began writing. Not emails this time. A full account of everything that had happened, from Emma's terrified screams in the driveway to the present moment. He wrote it all. The recording, the hospital, the burns, the investigation, the financial fraud, everything. Then he sent it to the New York Times. 2 days later, the story broke nationwide. Generational abuse in wealthy family exposed by 7-year-old's recording. The article went viral. Support flooded in from child advocacy groups, abuse survivors, people who'd grown up in similar environments. Catherine McKinney became a symbol of everything wrong with privileged families who thought money could buy immunity from consequences. And Grant Lambert became the father who'd fought back. The trial began in January. Snow blanketed Westchester County, and the courthouse was packed with reporters, victims' advocates, and curious onlookers. Grant sat in the front row every day, a silent presence, while Augusta Velasquez systematically built her case against Catherine McKinney. The evidence was overwhelming. The voice recording played in full, Emma's screams echoing through the courtroom. Medical experts testified about the deliberate nature of the burns, the precision required to inflict them. The fireplace poker was entered into evidence. Chemical analysis confirming burnt flesh on the tip. Doug Birch testified about his own childhood abuse, the beatings, the isolation, the psychological torture disguised as discipline. Carol Lowry testified about what she'd witnessed over 2 decades. Nicholas Manning testified about the financial fraud, showing how Catherine had stolen nearly $1 million from her own family. And then, on the 5th day of trial, Rochelle took the stand. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. She wore a simple gray suit, no jewelry, her hair pulled back. When she placed her hand on the Bible to swear in, it trembled. Augusta Velasquez led her through her testimony. Rochelle described her childhood, the punishments, the fear, the constant pressure to be perfect. She described being burned herself when she was 7, the same age Emma was now. Described believing it was normal because her mother said it was. Did you know your mother would physically abuse Emma when you left her at the estate? Augusta asked. I suspected she might be harsh. I thought maybe she'd use some of the same discipline methods she used on me. Rochelle's voice was barely audible. I told myself it would be good for Emma, that it would make her stronger. Did you believe that? I wanted to believe it. Because if I admitted it was abuse, then I'd have to admit what happened to me was abuse. And I wasn't ready to face that. Did Emma tell you she didn't want to go? Yes. Did she scream and beg not to be left there? Yes. And you left her anyway? Yes. Tears streamed down Rochelle's face. Yes, I left her. I chose my mother over my daughter. I chose denial over protection. And Emma. Her voice broke completely. Emma paid the price for my cowardice. It was devastating testimony. Conrad Bray tried to cross-examine, to suggest Rochelle was lying to reduce her own sentence, but she didn't waver. She admitted everything, her failure as a mother, her own abuse, her role in what happened to Emma. When she stepped down, she looked at Grant. He met her eyes and saw genuine remorse there. Maybe even the beginnings of understanding. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Emma was safe with him now, and Rochelle would have to live with her choices. The prosecution rested. Conrad Bray put on a defense that was professional but doomed. He argued that Catherine had believed in strict discipline, that she'd used methods that were common in her generation, that she hadn't intended to cause serious harm. The jury didn't buy it. After 3 days of deliberation, they returned with verdicts: guilty on all counts. Aggravated child abuse, assault, false imprisonment, grand larceny, fiduciary theft. Judge Herman Rios scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. Grant took Emma out for ice cream that night. She'd been following the trial carefully, asking questions, processing everything with Dr. Huang's help. Is Grandma going to jail for a long time? Emma asked, chocolate ice cream on her upper lip. Yes, sweetheart. A very long time. Good. Emma took another bite. Dr. Huang says I might feel sad about it sometimes. That it's okay to be mad at someone and still feel sad that they're in trouble. That's very wise. Do you feel sad? Emma thought about it. A little. Because she's my grandma, and grandmas are supposed to love you. But mostly I feel safe. Because she can't hurt me anymore. She can't. I promise you that. What about Mommy? What about her? Is she going to jail too? Probably. For a little while. But less time than Grandma, because she helped the police and she told the truth. Emma nodded slowly. I miss her sometimes. Not the mean her. The her who used to read me stories and take me to the park. Before she got scary. I miss that her too, Grant admitted. But sweetheart, people can change. Your mom is getting help now. Maybe someday she'll be the person she used to be. But that doesn't mean you have to forgive her or see her. That's your choice. I know. Emma stirred her ice cream into soup. Daddy, thank you for believing me. Thank you for listening to the recording and calling the police. Thank you for not making me go back there. Grant's throat tightened. Sweetheart, you never have to thank me for protecting you. That's my job. That's what parents do. Mommy didn't. No, she didn't. And I'm sorry you had a parent who failed you. But you'll never have to worry about that again. I promise. Emma leaned against him, and Grant wrapped his arm around his daughter, feeling the weight of responsibility and love and fierce protective instinct that defined him now. 2 weeks later, Catherine McKinney stood before Judge Rios for sentencing. The courtroom was packed again. Victim impact statements had been filed, from Doug, from Emma, read by Dr. Huang, from 3 other families who'd come forward with stories of Catherine's cruelty toward their children at various charity events and social gatherings. Augusta Velasquez recommended the maximum sentence, 25 years. Conrad Bray argued for leniency, citing Catherine's age, her lack of prior criminal record, her contributions to charity. Judge Rios listened to it all. Then he spoke. Mrs. McKinney, in my 30 years on the bench, I have never seen such a calculated, deliberate pattern of abuse. You didn't lose your temper. You didn't make a mistake in the heat of the moment. You systematically tortured your granddaughter, a 7-year-old child who trusted you. You used your position of authority to inflict pain, and you did it while believing your wealth and social standing would protect you from consequences. You were wrong. The evidence shows this wasn't isolated. You abused your own children. You stole from your family. You surrounded yourself with people who were too afraid to stop you. And when finally caught, you showed no remorse. Only concern for your reputation. This court finds you to be a danger to children and society. I am sentencing you to 25 years on the child abuse charges, to run consecutively with 10 years for the financial crimes. Given your age, this is effectively a life sentence. You will likely die in prison, Mrs. McKinney, and you will do so knowing that your granddaughter survived you, that your legacy is not one of charity and grace, but of cruelty and cowardice. Catherine's face remained impassive, but Grant saw her hands clench. 25 years. She was 63. She'd be 88 when eligible for parole, if she lived that long. Justice. Not perfect, but real. Rochelle's sentencing came 2 days later. She'd pled guilty to child endangerment in exchange for testimony. The judge gave her 4 years, with possibility of parole after 2 if she completed therapy and showed genuine rehabilitation. Grant didn't attend that hearing. He'd said everything he needed to say. Instead, he spent the day with Emma, building a blanket fort in the living room, watching movies, eating popcorn, being normal, being safe. That evening, as Emma slept, Grant sat in his office and looked at the photo on his desk, one of Emma at 6, laughing, carefree, before any of this happened. He couldn't give her that innocence back, but he could give her something better, the knowledge that when she'd needed help, she'd found the courage to get it, that when she'd been hurt, justice had been served, that she was strong and brave and loved. His phone buzzed. A text from Doug. "Thank you. For everything. For fighting when I didn't. For protecting Emma when my sister didn't. For taking Mom down. You gave our family something we never had. Accountability." Grant replied, "Emma gave us that. She's the brave one." He set down his phone and walked upstairs to Emma's room. She was asleep, clutching her stuffed elephant, her face peaceful. The bandages were off her arm now, revealing scars that would fade with time but never fully disappear. Those scars would remind Emma of what she'd survived. But Grant hoped they'd also remind her of what she'd accomplished, how she'd saved herself, how she'd broken a cycle of abuse that had haunted the McKinney family for generations, how she'd been brave enough to record the truth and walk 15 miles in the dark to find help. She was 7 years old, and she'd already changed the world. Grant kissed her forehead gently and whispered, "Sleep well, sweetheart. You're safe now. Always." And as he turned off the light and closed the door, he knew it was true. Catherine was in prison. Rochelle was facing her own justice. Emma was healing. The McKinney reign of terror was over. And Grant Lambert had kept his promise. He'd protected his daughter, dismantled her abusers, and built a safe foundation for her future. The war was won. The victory, hard-earned and bitterly fought, belonged to Emma, and to the father who'd refused to let her face monsters alone. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.